Welcome to the Alight Podcast, an offering of the Alight Institute. Our podcast episodes support you in expanding your wholeness so you can help transform our world with your light. I'm Shara Arman, a teacher, healer, and thought leader who specializes in helping my clients activate the soulful self-empowerment that supports their contributions to humanity and Earth. My mission at Alight is to assist you with offering your authentic service to the world's flourishing. In Alight podcast episodes, you'll hear about ways to strengthen your self-empowerment, optimism, determination, and clarity, and you'll receive resources for soulful self-care and conscious creativity. Our episodes will help you feel encouraged to know and be your authentic, soulful self on a planet whose people, plants, animals, and ecosystems need your unique, transformative presence. Everyone's here to contribute something, and when you contribute what you're meant to, your well-being and joy blossom. The calling in your heart is real. Our world is waiting for your loving contribution. Here's today's episode. Welcome back to the Alight Podcast, formerly Humans and Earth. I'm so happy to be bringing you this new series of interviews focused on what I'm calling soulful authenticity. What does it mean to live as your more authentic self and be your true presence to yourself and to our world that is in such a fast process of change right now? I am really happy to be talking today with Janet Doerr. She is a medical intuitive, a master energy healer, and an ascension guide who uses her multidimensional gifts of perception, deep connection with the company of heaven, and masterful use of a wide range of healing techniques to provide transformative results for her clients. People who work with Janet report rapid shifts in health conditions, regaining a peaceful state, improvements in relationships, and feeling empowered. Janet offers many programs which support her clients to identify and transmute the root cause energies that are underlying their health and life experiences. And she has supported over 1,850 individual clients from 43 countries. That's all the more impressive because this is a second career for Janet. And I'm bringing her on the podcast not only because she's been a teacher and mentor to me and someone whose work I've really appreciated, but she has created everything that I just described as a second career. And I thought that it would really be delightful to feature her in one of these episodes because she is such a good example of someone who had a very robust career in what we might call the conventional world or the more typical kind of 20th century career path. And then she transitioned to this very holistic work that she's been doing now for some years. So welcome, Janet. Really nice to have you here.
Thank you, Shara. It's a pleasure to be part of your own new offering here with a new focus on your own offerings.
Thank you. So as you and I talked about, we're going to get today to the topic of how people can more easily find their own authentic paths. But I really do want to start by featuring your story because I think it's a wonderful one and you tell it well, and it's a really good model for other people. So give us whatever version you want to give us of your kind of two-part professional path so far.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I had a more conventional start to my working life. I started doing consulting from the United States, where I grew up in Oakland, California, met the love of my life, moved to Canada. He is Canadian. And so then I was carrying on with offering management training and development services in Canada. In short order, well, not short order, a couple years, I got to the point where I craved more colleagues, and working alone was a lonely path. So I applied for a job with a major corporation in Canada, joined them in their management training and development center in the lower mainland of British Columbia, Vancouver mainland. And I worked there. And in short order, I was like, I don't want to teach managers how to manage anymore. I want to just get in and manage myself. So then I applied for and rose through a series of management jobs, including managing sales compensation for the company in multiple channels, managing real estate, doing business turnarounds with parts of the business which were not functioning very well. And then we got to the point where that company was merging. There was an opportunity to depart. I didn't ask to depart. I pretended I wanted a particular job, which I really didn't want. So the universe nicely recognized that misalignment there. And so I got an exit path. And that allowed us to move to Oregon, where we had family, cousins, and had preferred to live here. So then I returned to corporate finance, corporate business management, and quite a number of years, 12 years or so, progressively rising through the ranks, bigger and bigger teams, greater responsibility in high tech, major publicly traded corporations. And then I got to the point where there was a change in that organization, and I felt all of a sudden very dissatisfied, not enjoying what I was doing. So one of the things I'll say to those about people who are listening about following your authentic path is, when you are having the time of your life, when you're loving what you're doing, when you're grateful, when you see that your skills are being beautifully employed, you love your coworkers, whatever you're doing, then you've got some good clues that it's in alignment. But at the point where you start going, this isn't working for me, I'm not enjoying this, I'm not enjoying that, then you're really being given a strong message to shift, to allow something new to come in so that you can get back to that state of joy-filled service, which is what we're all here for, to be of service in some way with our God-given gifts. So I left that organization at the time of that switch with the same. I actually, one day the energy came in, I got the message, and it was like, this isn't working for me. And I penned a 1.5 page letter to the CFO that I reported to. And so then we had a conversation, and then I departed the company in 4 or 5 months later. So then that started my second journey, my second career, as you called it. I had also had my hips deteriorate. I had osteoarthritis in both hips, had one of them full hip replacement at age 52. And that's another clue, by the way, that you're misaligned. If you have a health issue that is kind of major and it's only getting fixed with traditional kinds of medicine, it's a good clue that there's some other things going on in your energy field where you're not aligned to your joy path. So as soon as I left, I began to prepare for having a second surgery, because my second hip was in rougher shape than the first, according to the x-rays. And so I thought, well, the second surgery would go better if I was in greater physical condition, I improved my diet, lose some weight. And so for the first time, I started meditating. and getting quiet. And I was able to do that instead of rushing off and going to the corporation where I might talk to 100 people a day in the work that I was doing. So all this quiet time allowed me to go within. And in the process of that, where I'm saying, just being present with myself, in came the remembrance. I can heal myself. I went, oh, of course. And then I reflected on, well, different things in my life that I had corrected, healed. And so I said, okay, so I'll heal myself. And also I suddenly had this awakening, this awareness that I was way more than Janet Doerr, a human being having a human life. I was a divine being of light in a body having a human experience. So those two things kind of went together. And then I started saying, okay, what would I love to heal? So I made my list. Okay, what would it take for me to have that brilliant memory back? What would it take for my puffy body to get back to a leaner, slimmer version of me? What would it take for the pain in my other hip to completely go away? What would it take for my vision to improve? So I was like a kid in a candy store preparing my order. Okay, I'll have this, I'll have this, I'll have this. These are the things that I'd like to heal. And in the process of asking questions, then I started to receive answers. So one of the best ways to increase your intuition is ask more questions, because one of the rules of the universe is in the asking, it is given. All questions get answered. In the moment you create your question, the answer is also created. Now, how might it come to you? You might be sitting quietly and an aha floats in. You might walk into the kitchen, as I found I was doing, and I thought, well, maybe I should talk to my body. And so I'd say, body, 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 what would you like me to eat? And then I would get a knowing that the body would like me to eat cashew nuts and cranberries. So I go, okay, well, that's what it is. So in the process of ask, receive, ask, get guidance, ask, listen, then more and more emails would show up, and I'd get guided to, oh, feels like I should click on this. I'd get curious. Well, I wonder what happens if I click on this, or if I go to that website, I've heard someone's name. So these are all things of following the energy, which is using your intuition to, you've asked questions, you would like something to shift. You've stated, what would it take for this brilliant new thing to show up in my life? And then you follow the energy, and it is an intuitive process where you're just quiet and you allow yourself to receive. So there's my intro.
I love it. And something that I want to highlight is when you said that you started getting quiet and listening more. It seems so obvious, but we're living in such a fast-paced culture. And of course, we all have our phones now and social media, and it seems like work demands have increased, etc. So I just really noticed when you talked about how you had been living quite a demanding professional life for many years, when that came to a pause, and not that people have to leave their jobs to hear their intuition, but the circumstance for you was your professional role paused and you had this health concern with your hip, and suddenly you were taking quiet time and you were listening. And again, of course, anybody can do that, even if they're working full-time and raising kids. And I'm a testament, because I did learn how to do it while working full-time and raising 3 kids. It is easier as your kids get older, of course. But anyway, I just really wanted to highlight that, because I think so many people feel like, I can't hear any guidance. I don't know what to do. I'm so overwhelmed. Well, are you pausing and listening, engaging in some kind of meditative practice, as you talked about? And are you dialoguing with your body? I love how you modeled that, because I've heard you talk about that a lot over the years, that it was a big turning point for you to really kind of ask your physical form, well, what do you need? So those sound like those were really big shifts for you and made a big difference.
Thank you. And I will add that when I was in corporate and all of that, I did love gardening. So my solace, my escape from all that busy mind, busy thought was to go out in my garden and dig some dirt and plant something, pull a weed, uh, trim the bushes. And so that was, in fact, a solace, a respite, my quiet time that I used while I was in that busy career. So, as an example, for those who are in busy careers, you can make those things a priority. I took walks. I think walking was really my major thing. Earlier in my life, I would swim every day at lunch for 30 minutes laps, and that was very meditative. So there are many different ways, even in the bustle of our lives, to take a break. Get out at lunch. I'd eat rapidly at my desk, and then I'd get out at lunch and take a little walk. So sometimes with a friend, but very often just by myself, to just connect with nature and be still. And that kept me high functioning in high tech for a very long time.
Which is impressive because that's known as a maybe kind of a pressure cooker field. One thing I'm curious about is, how do you think you've changed? Who are you now? Because a lot of people are going through various types of work and career transitions, but might be a little bit closer to that transition and still figuring it out. You've been in your second career as a healer and medical intuitive for a good number of years. And so I'm just curious, how do you perceive the person you are today as compared to the person you were in all those years of your corporate life when you weren't as kind of tuned in and whole being turned on as you are now? How do you feel now?
Lovely. Happier. I've laughed more in the last 10 years than I laughed, for 40 years before that. Who is the real me? Well, the real me is even bigger than what I am present to now, the remembrance. But when we say I am that I am, I am my I am presence. It's an invitation for more of your God self to come in. It brings in more light. It brings in more love. And as that happens, everything that is not us bubbles up and departs. So that all serious, must be serious in corporate life. I'm the female in corporate life and the males were running the show. You have to do this and do that, shrink yourself down to fit in. Really, the process of ascending and bringing in more of our light and becoming more of who we truly are, which is our divine self, is a process of letting go of that which we are actually not. So masks, ideas that we're not good enough, unlovable, unworthy, all of those things that are untruths. And the denser energies that we've accumulated over this lifetime and many others, and even stored in ourselves from our ancestors' DNA, the grief and sadness, shame, guilt, anger, frustration, even rage, all the different ways fear presents itself, terror, anxiety on a mild scale, all of that energy, because all those things are energies, emotion, energy in motion, that if we haven't felt safe, secure to process those energies, we end up storing them. And we even come into this life packing luggage of unfelt, unresolved emotion from other timelines. And so as we bring in more light, that stuff starts to vibrate, rises up and departs. And so we cry, we shake, all of these things. That's just us being present to the energy, observing it as it comes up to leave. And the more that we do that, then the more room there is for our true self, our God self, to descend into the body.
Yes, no, I think that completely makes sense. And so I guess one way I would sum that up is to say that there's this possibility, and you've experienced it, you are experiencing it, of becoming a clearer version of yourself, and a more multifaceted version of yourself.
Yeah, and we ultimately remember our multidimensionality, where we have our five senses. So speaking back to intuition, our physical bodies, we can hear, see, taste, touch, feel with our skin. And some people, of course, were born without one of those or are operating without one of those beautiful senses. But we have so many other God-given senses of being able to see an image or speak to an angel and hear a reply, to be able to smell a flower just looking at a picture rather than being physically present in proximity to a flower. All of our clair senses are a deeper form of intuition where we receive messages multidimensionally. So we have awareness. So when I gave the story of walking in the kitchen and saying, body, 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 what would you like to eat? And tell that story that one day it was cashews and cranberries. How did I receive that? I saw them with my clairvoyance. In my mind's eye, I saw a picture of a cashew nut, and I think I tasted the cranberry. So that was a combination of clairgustatory, tasting something that's not actually in your mouth, and getting a picture. It wasn't in front of me in the kitchen to observe. It was wrapped up in a bag and tucked in the cupboard. So I wasn't using my outer eyes. I was using my inner eyes and receiving the message from my body of what my body would like me to eat.
Yes, and I want to add, because we started going down another conversational pathway, our listeners might like hearing you actually healed your second hip and restored the cartilage and did not have a second hip replacement, which is extraordinary and something I hope that you helped anchor into humanity so that more and more people can experience that. Not that it's a terrible thing to have a joint replacement. And of course, that's where you started with the replacement of one hip, but that's always been exciting to me that you actually restored the second hip. And I think that made you, well, not only victorious, but quite a model of healing and intuitive self-healing for other people.
And following my intuition, so I said, I claimed, I'm choosing for this second hip to heal naturally. What would it take? Guide me. So I was guided step by step. I'd get the sense, or I'd read an email, turmeric reduces inflammation. Okay, I'm on it. So I'm taking turmeric. Oh, it's a lovely painkiller. Fantastic. So, not using the over-the-counter stuff, which had trashed my liver. And so step by step, I did, as I would hear about something, I was being guided. That is following your intuition, following the energy. And ultimately now, my husband and I went to a fair and an expo at the state fairgrounds, actually a couple of weekends ago, and we walked for 2.5 hours on cement floor, and I was good. By the end of the 2.5 hours, I was happy to find a chair and sit down. But I think lots of people were enjoying a chair at the end of 2.5 hours of walking on unforgiving cement. So, so yes.
Yeah, I want to highlight that question that you just asked too, because it's something you shared with me as I've learned from you over the years. And I do think it's a really deep and brilliant question. So I recommend it to others to try out. And it is, what would it take for this desired outcome to unfold? And I do think you're really right on with that question, because it does open up a kind of space of curiosity and listening. And for someone like me, creative list making of, well, okay, so there might be this solution and this solution and this solution, and my dream solution would be over here. So I just really like that question. And I urge people to test it out. What would it take for whatever the outcome is to become a reality?
Thank you for highlighting that, because that question is so brilliant. What would it take for X to appear? And you can use it on anything, and it does open up consciousness. It opens up the energy. It allows it to expand. And I'll share a couple of questions I don't ask. I don't ask, why is this happening to me? And how can I make this stop? Or how can I create this? How is not our job as divine beings. Our job is to focus on what we would like to experience. So by choosing, okay, from my right hip, what would it take for my hip to be strong, flexible, support me easily, bound up and down the stairs? I'm not quite there yet, but I know that's coming. What would it take for? So you focus on what it is you would love to experience. And you're not, in your mind, you're not trying to figure it out. So anytime anyone is saying, I have to figure this out, just say that. Notice how my hand clenched, my jaw kind of clenched. What happens when we say, I have to figure this out? What you're searching for an answer to something in your mind, in your mental body. And you tend to draw your energy tighter, your muscles get tighter, your breathing rises, and it just shuts us down. But by asking, what would it take for my desire, which I've described as I would love to experience this and this and this, to show up? Now you're releasing, you're opening, and you're allowing the universe, which is way more creative than what our little brains up here have stored in information that they've recorded over our lifetimes, to create all kinds of things. So what would it take? So cute, fun example. Drive out of our driveway down to the end of the street. There's an uncontrolled intersection, so no stoplights. Stop sign, yes, but no stoplights. And the traffic is two-way, and it's a very busy thoroughfare. So we would get down there, and my husband would go, oh, this is going to be a trick. We might be sitting here for, how long? It's so busy. And to make a left turn across 2 lanes of traffic, obviously way more challenging than just find an opening and turn right. So he would kind of go, oh, this is not going to be easy. And I would go, all right, what would it take for the perfect opening to be created for us to cross with ease and grace, completely safely? And then we would just watch, and everything would just align itself. And someone would stop, they're getting ready to turn left, and somebody else would do this, and all these things we just watch with great fun, and then go, oh, there's our space. So how could I, if I stood at that intersection and said, I've got to figure out how I'm going to get across safely, I wouldn't have come up with it. But by saying, what would it take for the perfect moment to occur for us to cross safely, then now the universe is working for us. People are telepathing, and the energy's shifting, and all of a sudden, there it is. There's our opening. So that is the power of that question. You stay out of your head.
Yes, it is such a multidimensional question, because, as you said, it takes you from just being in the brain to, oh, I can think about this, sure, but I could be in my heart, I could be in my visioning, in my desire, I can have my higher guidance and spiritual assistance coming in, and it's inspiring. So I urge people to play with that question. I'm curious what you're seeing in client sessions in recent months, because my sense is more and more people are feeling some discontent with our older systems and wanting to bring more of their authentic, kind of internal intuitive truth to whatever role they're playing in the world, whether they're parents or professionals in a job or volunteers or entrepreneurs. And of course, that doesn't necessarily mean people have to leave their current roles. I mean, some people do, like you, and embark on an entirely different role. But some people will remain in their current roles, but just bring more of their true selves to them. That's my perception anyway. But I'm curious if you are seeing this with the clients that you work with.
Well, it's the path we're all on, right? To drop more into our hearts, operate from our heart. And so, who are we in our truest nature? We're love, and we're divine, huge, powerful beings. And we have a repertoire of God given gifts. And everyone's God given gifts are different. Whether they're just the most amazing listener and hugger and don't go out to be of service in a paid kind of employment, or whether the person is a teacher, such as yourself and myself, or whether a person is brilliant at seeing solutions to things. They've got an incredible mind that can look at a computer situation and just spot, where to go, what's the root cause and how to fix it. So one of the keys is for all of us to love ourselves, accept ourselves, know that we're brilliant in our own unique, brilliant ways, and take a little bit of inventory about what lights us up. Where have we had the greatest joys in our life? Where have we felt the greatest fulfillment? Because and it may be a 10-minute moment or an opportunity or experience here or there, when we notice those things and get clarity on them and start to notice the patterns that we have some God-given gift. And, we used it when we were 6. We used it in our teen years. We used it as a young adult. We used it in that job or this job. We use it in our families, in our neighborhoods. You start to become more clear that, this is me. I have this gift. For myself, full of compassion. So with my clients, to help them refocus, remember, reunite with their God-given essence and see that they already have so many gifts and capabilities, and to align with and choose that they're using those things in whatever workplace or their family or their neighborhood in a way where they get to be of service. And a beautiful way to do that is just in the morning, make a little prayer, Mother, Father, God, or Heavenly Father, however you wish to speak to Creator, Source, God, and say, please let me be of service today. Provide the opportunity. I desire to be of service. Let me touch someone, help someone in some way, and just guide me. I'm open to do your work today, where you will be using your own God-given gifts, and the Creator Source energies will guide you to where you can be of service. And in so doing, you get that 5 or 10-minute interaction with someone, then maybe a quote unquote random stranger, it wasn't random at all, that you speak to out in the grocery store or at the gas station, and have a beautiful little connection. And the person feels uplifted being in your presence. So a lot of people, my clients included, are looking for ways to feel more fulfilled, to feel more deeper connection, to be of deeper service in whatever is happening in their life. So that's a couple of things that I recommend to help get aligned.
I really love that. And I think it is amazing once you have that orientation and you're paying attention to the serendipitous encounters. It's just amazing what unfolds. I have, I won't go into the details, although I know you know them. And I have mentioned here with my audience that we have a family health issue going on this year. And several weeks ago, I needed to take my car into the dealership to be checked. And after it had been there for about a day, this lovely dealership sends an Uber for free to pick me up and take me to pick up my car. And I felt surprisingly guided to request that Uber earlier than I had planned to. And it meant I was sort of rushed. As I recall, my hair was still wet and I had to gather my things in a hurry. But somehow I just felt like, no, I'm not going to request the Uber at 9:30. I'm going to request the Uber at 9:10. And the dealership ordered the Uber. The Uber comes. Turns out the driver was in the process of being diagnosed with a significant health concern. And because of the experience my family and I have been having, I was able to give this driver several resources that he might not easily have found. And I just thought, this was clearly not an accident. Not only did he and I have a lovely and pleasant conversation, and we were people from kind of different sociocultural backgrounds, so it was really neat to just connect and enjoy each other. But I was able to be in service to him as he was in service to me, taking me to pick up my car. And so, yes, I echo what you just said, and I encourage people not only to be thinking about their big picture service and contribution, whether it's through their career or their volunteering or their family, but to be looking for those daily interactions where we can all light each other up. I do want to ask you, though, about something that I think is a pervasive challenge for people right now, and that is a kind of discouraged despair because the world looks really messy. And I mean, we don't have time to go into all the reasons why it's messy, but I would certainly think, as someone at midlife who's also trained as a historian, the world is at a particularly messy point. And of course, with the internet, we are extra aware in ways that in past generations we just weren't. So things are messier and more complex, but we also have an onslaught of information. And I think that's leading a lot of people to feel frozen and helpless and like nothing is going to shift or change. So even though they might feel an impulse to help nudge things in a brighter direction, they also are kind of frozen in believing that that won't make a difference. And I would just love to hear what you say when you find yourself in conversation with someone who's experiencing that.
Such a great question. I'm going to do the parallel in our personal lives and then the outer world. So the outer world looks messy, indeed. A lot more lights coming in, everything that's not aligned with divine perfection, and the light is breaking apart. We're seeing, therefore, into things that were hidden before, corruption and different kinds of things, lack of truth, etc. So that's the light doing its work, coming in and permeating organizations, news media, governments, you name it, everything. And agitating, and we're becoming aware of things that are not of the highest light, and they're falling apart and being exposed. So that's how light works. It comes into shadows. The parallel in our own lives, more light's coming in. We stop, we receive, we breathe. And even if you're not taking more than 10 minutes a day to get quiet and center yourself, the light's coming in anyway. The higher frequencies are coming in and they're agitating your stuff. And so little eruptions of emotion, and you go, gosh, I didn't think I was so irritable, but look at all this irritation coming up today. That's irritation you stored from before, and the energy is simply liberating it. It rises. All energy wants to rise. So then your own stuff comes up. And you become aware of things that you stuffed and stored and suppressed and said, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to think about that. heart wounds, fears that you're not good enough, unlovable, all the old stuff that you've successfully tucked inside and packed down and put a lock and key on. Well, there's nothing that can hide in the face of the incoming frequencies and light. So then our own stuff comes up. So as we realize, oh, this is just old energy of mine. Have I become a depressed person? No, I'm releasing sadness. Have I become an angry person? No, I'm releasing old anger and frustrations from the past. What do we need to do? Be compassionate for ourselves. The energies arising. We don't have to spew it on someone, rage on someone, road rage. We don't have to do any of that. What we need to do is learn to breathe and be present to the energy as it arises and just allow it. And then hold ourselves in compassion, fill ourselves back up with a loving thought to ourselves, and do what makes us feel good. Go outside, sit, be quiet, get some alone time, go drink something refreshing like lemon juice and water, eat something that really feels good, where your body feels nourished. And as we do that and learn to care for ourselves and experience what it's like for energy to be arising, then we have a great, as we hold ourselves in compassion, we then are better able to radiate compassion for others. So you see someone out on the news who's been telling lies, and now they're getting exposed, and you can think, oh, I have compassion for that. Is there once or twice in my lifetime where I did not tell 100% of the truth? And that, should it have gotten exposed, how would I feel? Very embarrassed, ashamed. So instead of going, yeah, good, the liar is getting, we can instead go, oh, there, but for the grace of God, go I, and hold compassion for people who are doing what they're doing, getting called out, light shining into things. And, have I had moments in my life, not my finest moment? Of course. And I imagine all of you listening, not our finest moment, some moment where we lost our temper, we yelled at someone dear to us, and you may hold for decades guilt about, or shame about, having erupted in that moment. So then when I see someone over here raging and erupting, I can go, they've got some heart wounds, some energies coming through. They haven't learned to be present yet and love themselves. So this is what they're doing with their behavior and their emotions. So really what we can best do is hold compassion for ourselves, hold compassion for others, trust that as I'm doing my inner work, I'm feeling lighter and brighter, and the institutions that we're observing and other people who are having a hard time, they maybe haven't thought about, no one ever told them to just breathe, important skill that I don't think we, taught children growing up, just breathe, be with the energy, be present. You don't actually have to spew your energy out on others. And so we're seeing people who didn't receive that training. And so I just send more love. What's the answer to everything? More love is required. More compassion is required. We will get through it. And to the extent we can refocus on, what do I desire? What kind of world would I like to live in? What is the heaven on earth that I would like to see us create? In the moments you spend reflecting on that, you are anchoring it in the energy. You're creating the space, the energetic space, and the possibility for that to be what we rise to. So know that we're watching things collapse, people's energy coming up, hold it all in compassion, and as much as possible focus on, and what would I love to experience in the outer world, and what would I love to experience in my own personal life and family and experiences.
I really appreciate how you voiced that. I would sum that up with a phrase maybe like practical compassion, because, unfortunately, I think people might have the misperception that something like compassion doesn't really achieve anything, but I think that's mistaken. And I certainly look at myself and how I have really cultivated that compassion for myself and for others. Maybe in some ways it's still harder for me toward myself, but I am really good at feeling that compassion for others. And what that means for me is I'm not as perturbed and torn up by reading the news as some people might be feeling, because when you take yourself out of that space of judgment and you're feeling that compassion for all concerned, there is a greater peace and trust that evolve out of that. And then I think it's easier to imagine, well, there is space here for some kind of collaboration and working with one another, as opposed to continual opposition, as we're often seeing. And then, of course, you can also get to that point of, as you said, if I'm feeling compassion and I'm keeping a big portion of my attention on the world that I would like to see exist, then I feel free to help contribute to that instead of just being frozen in judgment and upset. And so, yes, I'm echoing what you said and just recommending that to everyone as a path that is actually a lot more practical and constructive than people might realize.
Yeah, embodying the energies of being peaceful, even in the presence of chaotic situations, being in harmony with myself, in harmony with my body, feeding my body what it wants, so I'm harmonizing, being in harmony with nature. Well, now we're anchoring the energy of harmony. So then we're radiating that out. Well, that's going to help other people shift out of being in something that's disharmonious into an energy of a more harmonious response to other people, to changes in their lives. So harmony, peace, compassion, these are powerful states of being. And as we are being them, we are radiating that out so other people can feel, oh, gosh, in your presence, I feel more peaceful. Gosh, in your presence, I feel more hopeful because I'm embodying hope and faith. I feel more compassion for myself. I see all the compassion you've held for yourself. This is how, that phrase, be the state that you wish to see in the world, it starts from within.
Thank you, Janet. It has really been beautiful to talk with you today. And I'm so glad we could bring this conversation to my audience. And I know you'll be sharing excerpts of it also. Please tell us how people can best connect with you. I think you have a gift that you would like to share, and you can talk about that. And then I also will make sure to put that in the show notes.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll have the link below. I won't try to read a link to you and expect anyone to memorize it. I have a gift, 5 steps to transform your energy, transform your health, which are the 5 steps that I've used to heal various things in my body, improve my memory, heal the right hip. So that's my gift to you. And in the receiving of that gift, as you register with just your name and email address, then you're now on my mailing list. And that allows you for me to stay in touch with you, and you can hear where I'm speaking next and different energy tips I'm offering. So that's the best way to connect.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Janet.
Thank you. It's been an honor and a privilege to be here, connect with you. And I trust that we are serving and offering people some insights today that they can take away and work with.
Yes. Thanks again. Thanks for listening to the Alight Podcast. My guests and I are honored to support your self-empowerment, self-healing, and soulful contributions to humanity and Earth. To learn about my services, visit www.alightinstitute.com. And remember, the calling in your heart is real. Our world is waiting for your loving contribution. Your life improves when you step forward as your authentic, soulful self.